Welcome. Today we'll be showing you the SPC panel from Vanderbilt Industries. SPC is a full-featured alarm and access control system that is easy to install and program, and with an embedded web server and cloud connectivity. So if you're sick of all of the current offerings on the market and want to avoid ridiculous SMAs and license fees, then SPC could well be the panel for you. SPC is not new, but it offers industry-leading features and design, as well as proven hardware, along with the same software across all of the models. And this ensures your training time is cut to zero. If you're an installer, business owner, or anyone that has a vested interest in the alarm and intrusion market, then you really need to watch this. Let's take a look at the different models available. The SPC 4000, 5000 and 6000 series panels have the following key capabilities. The SPC 4000 series is good for up to 4 areas, 32 zones, 30 outputs and 4 doors. The SPC 5000 series expands that out to 16 areas, 128 zones and 128 outputs, and 16 doors. While the 6000 series can have up to 60 areas, 512 zones and 512 outputs, and up to 64 doors. All 3 versions come with these standard features. They all come with an embedded web server. They all have access control features, audio and video verification, financial features for use in the banking environment, cloud services, and of course mobile apps, as well as connectivity into other Vanderbilt products such as Act Pro and SciPass, as well as into Cognify's Cauga VMS system. There are 3 versions of metalwork. The G2 cabinet, that's great for small systems that require minimal or no expansion, and it can house 1 additional module. The lid is also removable. The G3 cabinet, this has a hinge door and it has a drop-down panel to access the additional 4 extra expanders that can be added to the system, as well as it has room for a much larger 17 amp hour battery if required. And finally, what I would call the beast is the G5 cabinet. This can house up to 6 additional expanders, and it has room for 2 27 amp hour batteries. For the keypads, the 400 series is the basic model, and it is a 2x16 character display, and it's also available with an optional EM card reader inbuilt. The 500 series has a 128x64 pixel graphic display and touch keypad, as well as a blue bezel backlight. It has an optional EM and MyFair card reader, and also there is a flush mount kit available for this keypad. The 600 series offers the same display as the 500, but it has physical buttons. Also an optional EM card reader, as well as a speaker and microphone, so you can use it with audio verification. There's a number of modules that can be added to increase over the number of zones, number of outputs, as well as multiple two-door controllers can be added to the system. There's a variety of audio verification modules that can be added, and also an indication expander, which sort of acts as a pseudo mimic panel. There is a plug-in PSTN and also GSM module that plugs in directly onto the main PCB. As your system grows, you're going to require one or more additional smart power supplies to power everything on your system. So let's take a look at the PCB. All SPC panels start with 8 zones, and they can have 0, single, dual, or triple end-of-line resistor values in a wide range of values, and each zone can have a different value. SPC also supports virtual zones, and that is, any set of functions can be linked to operate this virtual zone, and it acts just like any other zone in the system. All panels start with 6 outputs, 2 of them of which are high-powered, 1 is a relay, 3 are low-powered transistor outputs. And the typical configuration would be an external siren, an internal screamer, your strobe, and you have 3 spare. Here is where we can add our 2 optional communication mediums, either the PSTN module or a 3 or a 4G modem, as well as we have the inbuilt Ethernet port here. We have our input power and battery, 2 additional Tampa inputs, and a USB connector to allow our SPC Pro Connect software to program the system if required. The X-Bus is used to communicate to all the keypads and modules, and multiple wiring methods are possible, as shown here. So it's important to select the preferred method before installing or taking over a system. After wiring the X-Bus and zones and outputs, we can power up the system. For a new system out of the box, or when one has been defaulted, a start wizard will be shown on the keypad. When the panel powers up, you'll come up with some information about the version numbers and the info about the keypad. You'll then load the version of the panel, and whatever key you press, that's the keypad we'll be using. Select your language. I guess for us, English is a good start. Our location. Scroll down to Oceania, Australia or New Zealand. Australia is good. We can pick commercial, financial or domestic. In our case, we'll pick a commercial panel. And we're going to pick an unrestricted grade. That is, we can have access to all of our programming functions. We can now update our date and our time. SPC Connect is the cloud service. Do we want that to work or not? We're going to say yes. Are we using DHCP for our IP address? In our case, no, we want to type in our IP address. That's the default IP address that's in the system. It's now detecting whether we have any PSTN or GSM modems. And it's telling us that we have a GSM modem in the primary modem slot and nothing in the backup. Our X-Bus is the way that we want it to communicate. So we want auto, so it just auto discovers everything. And we're picking spur, so we have a fan out wiring solution. It will now go and find all of the devices on our bus and tell us that we have 3 keypads, 0 expanders, and 1 door controller. And it's noticed that we have end of lines fitted in 7 of our zones, so it automatically programs those. And we end up in the full engineer or installer mode. So we want to update our IP address. So we want .75 on the end of this one so we can access it with our browser a little bit later on. And we'll also be using our SPC Connect service, so we need to ensure our gateway and our DNS settings also are correct. So in my case, our gateway is 192.168.1.254. And the same with our DNS. Once that's done, that's certainly the absolute basics that we can do with our startup. So I'm going to get out of engineer mode, and it's telling me my cabinet tamper is open, so I'll just close my cabinet. And now we're in what we call our soft engineer, and by pushing the X again, we get back to our standard static screen. Okay, now that we have our system up and running, at least in the most basic way, from here we can continue to program through the keypad or start up your PC browser and complete it from there. The keypad is quite straightforward, and I can show you how that operates here. Okay, we've started up a virtual keypad so I can show you the basic information that you would see when you use the keypad to operate the system. It's currently showing us time and date and the state of the two areas that I've set up. My office and my warehouse are both unset or disarmed at the moment. If we put in a code which is good for the office only, it will come up and only allow us to set the area that we're allowed. So in this case, there's no options. We can just arm the system. System has gone into a full set, and we can see the office is in full set. The warehouse is still unset. This keypad can operate both areas, but the code that I've used can only operate one. Let's go and disarm. We'll disarm the system, and it's ready to set. Let's just type in our code again. Depending on what functions I've given this particular user, they will be shown in our menu. So we can have a look at our system status, check any zones that are open, any alerts or troubles that we have, and there isn't any. We could soak test a zone, isolate a zone. I've given the user the rights to do that. We can go back a step, and you can see everything here is very easy to navigate. Change our own PIN. I think I've given this person control over one reader, so we could momentarily unlock that from the keypad here if we so desired. So very simple way for a user to operate. I'll just get out of here for a sec. We'll try a manager, somebody that has access to both areas. You can see here that I can arm both areas straight up, or I could arm, or at least see the status of each area here individually. So if I wanted to just arm the warehouse, it would come up and tell me now the warehouse is armed, the office was disarmed, and when we go back in, it's showing us that all areas are part set. Some are set, some aren't. So we can disarm everything from here. So you can see, I won't go through everything, but just a very quick guide on how the keypad works and what you can see. Certainly we'll be going through the web browser in more detail in our next video also. Okay, from our browser, any browser, makes no difference. We type in our IP address of the system in question, and we can log in with our engineer code and pin. And we're presented with a status screen. So we can see the area is unarmed. We can arm all areas as simply as that. We can unset all areas. We could arm each area individually from here. We can see any troubles or isolations down the bottom. Any current alarms would be in this screen. And if it's integrated with some video, we can see our cameras here. Our status screen gives us a great overview on the state of our system, power, battery charge, current, our XBus, how many devices, 4 devices, they are all okay. Our IP address details, our modem details, that I've got a Telstra 3G SIM card and it's a GSM and I have high coverage. Don't have a second modem here. We can look at all of our inputs directly and we can see the state as well as the current end-of-line resistance for each of our zones. We can go to a log and it will show us every time that that zone has been opened or closed and the end-of-line resistance associated with each of those changes. We can look at our outputs. In this case, we have programs what we call mapping gates, which allow us to manually turn our output on or off, and we can do that from here. We can see our doors, the status of the door, the status of the exit request, the status that the door is currently in, and we can lock down that door, that is, have nobody get through it, unlock that door so it's unlocked, or momentarily allow access according to the access time period. We can see the state of what we call our Flexi, our communication status on all of the things that this panel is connected to. And this panel that I've got here is connected and reporting to a number of different systems and sites. First and foremost, it's talking to our cloud SPC Connect service, and it's telling me the status is okay, and the last time it polled was 37 seconds ago. I have an ACT Pro access control system, one of Vanderbilt's products, in this office as well. It is talking via high-level interface to that and sending all of its information off to ACT Pro. I have a pseudo control room, our ComXT program. It's talking to that, as well as a remote control room in Melbourne. It's also sending all of its status to that. So we can have quite a number of paths where this SPC panel is communicating to. We can see at a nutshell any system alerts and their status down on this page. Our log files, we can see everything that happened on the system. We can have a look at every access that's happened on this system or attempted access as well. Our modem logs won't have anything in here, unfortunately. It hasn't spoken to anything at the moment, but would appear all of the call logs of numbers in and out. Our users, we can set up a user here or define a profile that that user operates to. So all of this is available directly from the initial sign-on screen. If we go into our engineer mode, we now have more menus down the bottom that we can now configure our system. So we can configure our zones, pick an end-of-line resistance value, give it a name, give it a type, associate it with an area. So we'll go through this in a bit more detail in our next video that will show the programming and setup of the SPC panel. But this is just to give you a taste on what is available, how it looks, and the ease in which you can program this system. So we have multiple ways to access the panel to either operate it or program it. Firstly, via any keypad on the system, via any computer browser, any type will do. Via the cloud, if you're using SPC Connect, you have access from anywhere. You can also check out our SPC Cloud video on YouTube for more information. Or you can program via a USB cable from your PC to the port on the panel and use the SPC Pro Connect software to program your system. In our next video, I will run through the basic steps needed to start up your new SPC installation that we've just installed. So I look forward to seeing you again at that time. But like always, if you can't wait, I have a few links in the show notes, and a number of programming videos on SPC are already on our YouTube site. So bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your day. Say goodbye.